Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, within a few minutes we will be honored to welcome the President of the State of Israel, His Excellency Reuven Ruvi Rivlin. When he enters, which will follow the entrance of the 2019 Dan David Prize laureates, please honor him by standing up. We kindly ask you to take your seats and switch your phones to silent mode. The 2019 Dan David Prize laureates are now entering the hall, accompanied by Professor Joseph Klafter, President of Tel Aviv University and Chairman of the Dan David Prize Board, Mrs. Gabriela David, and Mr. Ariel David, son of the founder, the late Mr. Dan David. Please rise for His Excellency, Mr. Reuven Ruvi Rivlin, the President of the State of Israel. גבירותיי ורבותיי, תודה רבה שאתם איתנו. ערב טוב וברוכים הבאים לטקס הענקת פרס דן דוד לשנת 2019. טקס שבו העבר, ההווה והעתיד שזורים זה בזה במצוינות וחדשנות. ברשותכם, על מנת לאפשר לאורחינו הרבים שאינם דוברי עברית לעקוב אחר הטקס, ננהל אותו בשפה האנגלית. Good evening and welcome to the 2019 Dan David Prize Award ceremony. The Dan David Prize, now in its 18th year, celebrates those who have made extraordinary discoveries and outstanding contributions to humanity. The prize is always awarded in 3 distinct time dimensions: past, present, and future. But it has been uniquely designed to allow for a wide range of disciplines to be acknowledged. This includes emerging or newly relevant fields, as well as more established ones. Before we open this evening's ceremony, let us remember founder of the prize, Dan David, in his own words.
Se volete che comincio dall'inizio, andiamo indietro 80 anni, o quasi 80 anni, al 23 maggio del 1929, quando sono venuto alla luce a Bucarest, in una vecchia casa dove abitava la mia famiglia. A 2 anni non parlavo, finché un giorno, quando una vettura è entrata nel nostro cortile, ho detto auto. Non so se mi riferivo a quella vettura o al sogno delle macchine automatiche che doveva riempire la mia vita alcuni anni dopo. Anni della guerra, abbiamo sofferto a Bucarest, ma meno di quello che era successo in Polonia oppure nel nord della Romania. Però la vita è andata avanti. 1944, 24 agosto, Viene creata un'organizzazione della gioventù sionista. Divento molto attivo in questo campo, entro nella gruppi di giovani, vivevano insieme e si preparavano a partire in quello che allora era la Palestina e che doveva diventare Israele. Noi in quel momento eravamo in una città chiamata Piatra Neamz, dove avevamo organizzato quello che si potrebbe chiamare un piccolo kibbutz. E la vita era difficile. Sono andato all'Università delle Scienze Economiche e ho imparato tante cose che non mi sono mai state utili in tutto il resto della mia vita. Non passa molto tempo e mi prendono agli interrogatori. Vengono registrato, mi si levano le scarpe, la cintura, specialmente l'orologio, vengo portato in una cella, mi mettono sempre quei famosi occhiali neri che per me sono un simbolo di quello che è successo. Dopo 4 anni ho trasformato uno dei miei hobby in professione e sono diventato fotoreporter, reporter artistico, fotografo industriale. E nel 61 prendo la mia prima vacanza per andare nel mondo libero. Avevo visto a Parigi delle macchine per fototessera e mi ero interessato a chi le fabbrica. Le fabbrica la società Photomi in Inghilterra. Non avevo molti soldi, molti risparmi, arrivo a Hersham, dove era la sede a Photomi, e dico: buongiorno, vorrei avere l'esclusiva delle vostre macchine per Israele. Posso darvi un anticipo per una prima macchina e poi mi impegno durante il primo anno di comprarne altre 5. E così comincia la mia vita, il mio abbinamento con la fototessera automatica. La parola auto che aveva pronunciato all'età di 2 anni si riferiva probabilmente a questo. Firmo un contratto di esclusiva per 120 macchine da installare in Italia e arrivo a Roma la sera del 4 novembre 1962 e il 7 di novembre registriamo la società Dedem Automatica. Nel 68 ho avuto l'occasione di prendere una posizione più importante nella Photomi e mi sono occupato di aprire nuovi paesi. Ho cominciato con dare un forte impulso alla società statunitense. Verso la fine di 68 ho avuto forse la più grande sfida della mia attività, il Giappone. E poi, come in altri momenti della mia vita, ho incontrato una persona che veramente mi ha fatto uscire da questo difficile periodo della mia vita. Ho incontrato Gabriella, è arrivato Ariel e la vita è ricominciata. Il successo dimostra che sei arrivato su questa terra e hai realizzato qualche cosa. La tua ingegnosità, la tua creatività hanno lasciato qualche cosa dietro a te. E non solo per te stesso, per te solo, per tutti quelli che intorno a te hanno costruito una famiglia, un'attività, una vita forse più felice grazie a quello che tu hai fatto. Il mio successo è stato il successo di altre centinaia di persone, non solo mie.
Dan David, in his own words, "It is now my honor to call upon the Honorable Reuven Ruvi Rivlin, President of the State of Israel, to open the ceremony."
Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Before starting and saying to you my formal words that I prepared for this evening, I would like to say, as a Jerusalemite, very frankly, that in Israel, usually, we speak Hebrew. And then, the prize and the real honorable one who have contribute everything for this evening, the prizes of Dan David. He was speaking Italian, Romanian, Hebrew, and I will talk because of our guests in English to you, and with apologize to the protocol of the State of Israel. I love Hebrew. Well, Mr. President, President of Tel Aviv University, Professor Yosef Klapter, Mrs. Gabriela David, Mr. Ariel David, winners of the 2019 Dan David Prize, ambassadors, distinguished guests. Shalom. Shalom to you, a Hebrew word. Congratulations to the 2019 Dan David Prize winners, and welcome, welcome to Israel. I am delighted to see you here. Congratulations to the Dan David Foundation for 18 years, as it was mentioned, of realizing Dan David vision, of advancing knowledge, and recognizing contribution to humanity. The legacy of Dan David, who escaped from communist Romania to Israel and to the West, is not only the advancement of knowledge, but also the freedom to gain knowledge, push boundaries, imagine new possibilities, and strive to turn imagination into reality. This is the freedom that drove the Zionist movement dream of building a new model society in our ancient homeland, the land of Israel. A dream that Dan David shared and worked to realize. This is the freedom that serves as a basis of excellence and innovation and Israeli universities. This is the freedom at the heart of Israelis' democracy. And this is a freedom that we must always cherish and defend, even in days that it is quite difficult to do so. Seeking knowledge and efforts to improve the world has always been very, very important. But it is even more important today as we face the challenges of ethnic and religious conflict, extremist ideologies, and growing prejudice and hate. Seeking knowledge and tikkun olam, second the Hebrew word that I'm using, repairing the world. Tikkun olam is repairing the world, building bridges between peoples and bring them together. This is true when we examine the past. This is very true when we speak to improve the present and defending democracy, liberty, and rights for all. And this is true when we work together to protect the future of the planet we all share. So once again, congratulations to these year winners, and thank you for all that you have done to help us understand our common past, enrich our shared present, and build a better future for all of our children. Mazel tov to everyone, to all the winners. God bless all of you. I'm very honored and very happy to be here tonight. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Rivlin, for your words of wisdom. And now I am delighted to call upon Professor Joseph Klafter, President of Tel Aviv University, to deliver his address.
Good evening, President Reuven Rivlin, David family, university leadership, distinguished prize laureates, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tel Aviv University and its Dan David Prize. After a decade of chairing the prize and officiating at the ceremony, and after seeing each year's new categories and meeting the amazing recipients, I still think the prize concept of past, present, and future is as unique and disruptive as when the prize was conceived by Dan David in 2001. The ability of the prize to spotlight past lessons, current issues, and future directions keeps it fresh and appealing each and every year. Our daily reality shifts and evolves at a rapid pace, and the Dan David Prize keeps up with it. Moreover, just as life is complex and interdisciplinary, so is the prize. Conventional fields in academia and the professional world are making way for new issue-based ones. So, this year, in the past category, we have Professors Kenneth Pomerantz and Sanjay Subramaniam answering the difficult question: what drives major historical trends on the level of entire civilizations? We have in the future category Miss Christiana Figueres, one of the world's leading warriors against climate change. And in the present category, we have Professor Michael Ignatiev, a champion of academic freedom and human rights, together with Reporters Without Borders, an organization working to protect freedom of the press in 150 countries. Both winners are being recognized for defending democracy, and I'm deeply moved by our university's role in the timely and important duty of defending freedom of expression. As I mentioned before, the idea of continually reassessing our past, present, and future was a brainchild of the prize founder and Tel Aviv University Honorary Dr. Dan David. This year, the university had the honor of inaugurating a new research center dedicated to Dan's memory, the Dan David Center for Human Evolution and Biohistory Research at our Steinhardt Museum of Natural History. In many ways, the new center is a mirror image of the Dan David Prize, because the study of human evolution reveals the secrets of the past, adds to present knowledge, and rethinks our shared human future. Distinguished prize laureates, thank you very much for the privilege to host you here at Tel Aviv University and to celebrate your remarkable accomplishments. I would like to thank the Dan David Foundation, the Dan David Prize Committee, the wonderful prize staff, you, our audience, and of course, Gabriela, Gabi David, and Ariel David, who are so committed to the prize and to Tel Aviv University. And one last thing. You can take the president out of the prize, but you cannot take the prize out of the president. This is my farewell address to you as I complete my term of office tonight. But the essence of the prize, of the David family, and of the creativity across time will continue to inspire me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Klafter. I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Ariel David, son of the late founder and director of the Dan David Foundation, to deliver his address. Mr. David, the stage is yours.
Your Excellency, Reuven Rivlin, President of the State of Israel, Professor Yosef Klafter, outgoing President of Tel Aviv University, Professor Ariel Polat, incoming President of Tel Aviv University, Professor Yaron Oz, Rector, Professor Jacob Frenkel, Chairman of the Board of Governors, Mr. Eli Gelman, Chairman of the Executive Council, members of the board, ambassadors, distinguished laureates of the prize, honored guests, and dear friends, good evening. Did I forget anyone? I wish to thank, first of all, President Rivlin for honoring us with his presence here tonight. You see, one of my father's goals in establishing this prize was to acknowledge and encourage the best and brightest minds of our time in all fields of human endeavor. And he wanted this recognition not to come from just any place, but from here, from Israel, and from Tel Aviv University in particular, one of the foremost teaching and research institutions in the country. He wanted to help create a connection between those great minds, the laureates of the prize who come from all over the world, and the great minds here in Israel. I believe he saw this as doing his part in fulfilling the commandment, the biblical commandment, that Israel should be a light unto the nations, or lagoim, a little bit of Hebrew also from me. Mr. President, I very much admire your own work in making sure that we fulfill this commandment, especially your continued commitment to safeguarding Israel's democracy and protecting the liberal values on which this country was founded. So your presence here is deeply valued, particularly because one of the prizes is being awarded for the defense of democracy. And as you've heard, this is the 18th time that the prize is awarded, and as often happens when one reaches a more mature stage in life, change is happening. I first of all wish to thank Professor Klafter, who is ending his term as president today, for his staunch support of the prize over the last decade, in parallel with his outstanding leadership of Tel Aviv University. Yossi began his tenure when my father was still with us, 10 years ago, and he was very supportive of me after his passing, and I took on, as I took on the new duties in connection to the prize and the foundation, and I will always be grateful for that, for his support. And I wish to welcome here tonight Professor Ariel Polat as incoming president of the university and chairman of the prize, with the firm belief that the collaboration between the university and the Dan David Foundation will continue to be as strong and fruitful as it has been over the past 18 years. I also welcome the new director of the prize, Charlotte Halley, who has replaced who has replaced Madar Fisher after many years of service. I wish to thank Madar for her excellent work, and I wish Charlotte good luck and many years of success and satisfaction in her new position. I also wish to thank the many people involved in the organization of the prize, starting with Professor Itamar Rabinovich, chair of the Dan David Foundation, Professor Oli Chesnovsky, the scientific advisor of the prize, the entire staff of the prize office, and the members of the International Board and the selection committees for their outstanding selections this year. Now, the prize was created to carry on my father's spirit and his ideas, and the selected fields or the laureates never fail to somehow remind me of him in some small way, and this year is no exception. When I was just 9 years old in 1989, I remember how closely we followed the news of the fall of the Berlin Wall. For someone who was born in Romania and who had suffered under both Nazi fascism and communism, this was a moment of triumph, the triumph of freedom, of truth and democracy over totalitarianism, propaganda and extremism. It was a dream come true for this Romanian Jewish man who was expelled from school and his home under fascist racial laws during World War II, and who was then arrested and persecuted by the communist secret police for his Zionist activities in post-war years. As we watched the images of people streaming over the wall and hammering at it with pickaxes, my father turned to me and told me, "Remember this day. Remember it for the rest of your life." And indeed, I remember that day very well. In his eyes and his words, I saw the hope that the end of the Cold War would herald the dawn of a new era of peace, progress, and prosperity for all of humanity. What Francis Fukuyama once termed the end of history. So maybe we were a little naive, just a bit. History did not end that day, and in remembering that moment, I am a bit saddened that just 30 years later, those values that my father held so dear find themselves on the back foot, as one by one the most storied democracies of the world are besieged by a new wave of populism, of ignorance and hate. But I also take heart in seeing you, the 2019 laureates of the Dan David Prize. Today, more than ever, we need historians like Professors Kenneth Pomerantz and Sanjay Subramaniam, who are capable of grasping the big picture of our past and revealing the underlying mechanisms and patterns of development in human societies. We need the courage and steadfastness of scholars like Professor Michael Ignatieff and organizations like Reporters Without Borders to protect and shore up academic freedom and a free media in this time of crisis for democracy. These two liberties are at the basis of any open and free society, and it is no coincidence that today they find themselves constantly under attack by those who wish to undermine the very fabric of democracy. And we need the optimism, the activism, and the skill of diplomats like Cristiana Figueres to help bring together the peoples and governments of the world to face down the threat of climate change and realize the danger that it poses for the future of humanity. Dear laureates, each of you in your own way represents the best answers to some of the great challenges that we face today. I congratulate you for your achievements and urge you to continue with your crucial work. I hope that we can all learn something from you over the next few days during the symposiums you will be holding here at the university. And I also know that you will serve as models and hopefully perhaps even mentors to the young scholars in your respective fields, to whom tomorrow you will donate 10% of your prize. My dear guests, you're all invited to join us at these festive events over the next few days. And of course, I hope to see you all again here next year to celebrate the laureates of the 2020 Dan David Prize. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. I would like to thank His Excellency, the President, for his participation in this evening's event. Please remain in your seats as the official delegation departs. The selected field for the 2019 Pastime Dimension is macrohistory. Macrohistory studies and compares large-scale phenomena across multiple periods and cultures. Gustav Holst's monumental work, The Planets, is a musical representation of the solar system. The movement we will hear tonight is dedicated to Saturn, the bringer of old age. The music paints a picture of a clock forever ticking, signifying the human struggle with time. Thank you to the multi-piano ensemble and the tremolo ensemble from the Buchmann Mehta School of Music, led by pianist Tomer Lev and percussionist Tomer Yariv. The Dan David Prize Board has accepted the recommendation of the International Review Committee, chaired by Professor Ed Bernson from the Institute of French Studies at New York University, and selected Professor Kenneth Pomerantz and Professor Sanjay Subramaniam for the 2019 Dan David Prize for the Pastime Dimension in the field of macrohistory. This evening, we are recognizing Professor Kenneth Pomerantz for his comprehensive work on the reciprocal influences of state, society, and economy, and on the relative advancement of societies over the world, and for his most notable book, The Great Divergence, China, Europe, and the Making of the Modern World Economy, which analyzes the factors that contributed to the industrial growth beginning in the late 18th century in Northwest Europe compared to East Asia and the rest of the world.
I became interested in history probably originally without differentiating it that clearly from a lot of other lines of study. A range of things from, say, economics at one end to literature at the other, that were all different ways of thinking about how humans deal with each other and the kinds of societies they make. And history, I think originally for me, appealed in part because it offered the chance to do bits and pieces of so many of those things. One of these sort of simple questions that I think is actually quite useful that I've come to often ask my undergraduates is, what happens to horse-drawn transportation when the railroad comes through? And the point of that is not to, be cute and trick people and say, aha, no, that's the right answer. It's to say that the answer to the question depends on your time frame. And what the right time frame is depends on why you're asking the question. What I've come to think of history as is a series of ways of framing all questions about change over time, which can be as practical as, should I buy a house in this neighborhood? Should I go into this line of work? Or can be as, oh my God, are humans going to dodge the climate change bullet? Or are we really going to make a mess of things? And so more and more I think of history, of course it's a body of knowledge, but more even than that as a set of tools. And so I may have gone into it for the wrong reasons, but I'm actually kind of glad I did anyway.
Professor Sanjay Subramaniam is being recognized for his exceptionally prolific work, focusing mainly on the encounters of Asians, Europeans, and Americans, indigenous and colonial, in the early modern period, for his multidisciplinary studies covering aspects of economic, political, cultural, and intellectual history, as well as the history of representations, and for his fundamental, highly influential contribution to the methodology of macrohistory.
I don't think I have any broad words of wisdom to offer to anybody except to say that what I have to embrace the unexpected.
Probably at least half of historians are accidental historians. But a lot of us actually, drift into it in one fashion or another. I actually have no degrees in history at all. I only have degrees in economics, which is an interesting thing because I think that history is an interesting discipline from that point of view. It's very porous, it's very welcoming, which shouldn't mean that there's no kind of possible core of rigor and so on to it, but it does mean that there are lots of doors into it. I'm really not looking for things in history which necessarily have to do with questions of, in a very direct way at least, of myself and my identity. I certainly have never cultivated obscurity or opacity. It doesn't come naturally to me in the classroom. It doesn't come naturally to me when I write. But at the same time, I don't feel that I have to put this sort of, dunce's cap on and write this book. We often use metaphors like, having a conversation with the archive. It's not true at all, because you actually have, when you're dealing with oral histories and living subjects and so on, you have the flexibility or the possibility of taking things in certain directions. And, we who say people like me who work in the 16th or the 17th centuries, we are very heavily constrained by what is there for us.
I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Ariel David, son of the late founder and member of the prize board, and Professor Yaron Oz, rector of Tel Aviv University, to present the awards. I have the honor to invite to the stage the recipient of the prize, Professor Kenneth Pomerantz. I am honored to invite to the stage the recipient of the prize, Professor Sanjay Subramaniam. Professor Pomerantz, please join Professor Subramaniam for a photo. Thank you very much, Professor Subramaniam, Professor Oz, and Mr. David. I would like to ask Professor Pomerantz to remain on stage and address the audience on behalf of the Macrohistory laureates.
Honored guests, fellow recipients, and above all, members of the Foundation, I am, of course, very, very grateful to have been chosen for this honor and to be here in such distinguished company, not to mention in the virtual company of past and future honorees and of the initiator of the prize. It's a particular pleasure as well to share the prize in my field with Sanjay Subramaniam, whose work I have followed and admired for many years. At a moment when there is so much that is alarming about our present, being cited for seeking out patterns and connections across broad scales of history looking beyond particular communities and particular moments, and hoping that maybe in fact such work does in some way contribute to the task of Tikkun Olam, is both exciting and humbling. We will all have opportunities to speak at greater length over the next days about complex ideas and about what we each do and what we think it means. So for now, let me stick to one simple idea: gratitude. We did not apply. We made no promises about how we would use such a generous gift. Being trusted matters, perhaps as much as having past achievements honored. Being reminded that our work forms part of a larger common project, and that the other people engaged in that project are not restricted to our immediate disciplinary colleagues, matters. Perhaps this simply adds up to saying that generosity, appreciation, vision, and a call to intellectual community matter. But those seem to me to be truths well worth affirming. And so, thank you, above all, to the Foundation and the family, but thank you to everyone who's here tonight.
Thank you very much, Professor Pomerantz, and congratulations. The selected field for the 2019 Present Time Dimension is Defending Democracy. Democracy, its institutions, norms, and values have recently come under siege, not only in the non-Western world, but also in well-established and even traditionally exemplary liberal and tolerant societies. In some cases, these developments entail attacks on the rule of law, judiciary, academia, and the free press. Horacio Guarani's popular song, Si se calla el cantor, if the singer is silenced, was made famous by Argentinian protest singer Mercedes Sosa. The song relates to the essential role of the artist in defending a free and just society. His or her mission is to cry out, it is to protest. But what will happen if the poets are silenced and can no longer sing their song?
Si se calla el cantor, calla la vida, porque la vida misma es todo un canto. Si se calla el cantor, muere de espanto la esperanza, la luz y la alegría. Si se calla el cantor, se quedan solos los humildes collones de los diarios. obreros del puerto se persignan. ¿Quién habrá de luchar por sus salarios? Si se calla el cantor, muere la rosa. ¿De qué sirve la rosa sin el canto? Debe el canto ser luz sobre los campos, iluminando siempre a los de abajo. Que no calla el canto, porque el silencio cobarde apaña la maldad que oprime. No saben los cantores de agachadas, no callarán jamás de frente al crimen. Si se calla el cantor, calla la vida.
Such an amazing song. Thank you very much, the ensemble of young musicians from the Buchmann Mehta School of Music. The Dan David Prize Board has accepted the recommendation of the International Review Committee, chaired by Professor Shlomo Avineri from the Department of Political Science at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and selected Professor Michael Ignatieff and Reporters Without Borders for the 2019 Dan David Prize for the present time dimension in the field of defending democracy. This evening, we are recognizing Professor Michael Ignatieff for his lasting advocacy of democracy over the world, as a reporter, as a champion of human rights, and as one of the first to warn against the rise of radical ethnic nationalism, and in particular for his leadership as a president and rector of the Central European University, standing on the front lines against the campaign to stifle academic freedom, free expression, and pluralism in Europe.
The stuff I've done most of my life, which is to write and teach, is actually what I love best and am best at. And I'll never regret having gone into politics, but I think as I look back, maybe I wasn't cut out for it.
We live in a world of nation states that defend their power, defend their territory, build walls and borders. Human rights is the story that tells us that what happens to people in other countries is always our business. And we should be concerned if someone is tortured or disappeared or murdered or abused. I think the world now accepts that there's some things that are just right for everybody and some things that are just wrong. But governments and states are still resisting that truth, and that's where the battle is now. And I think the right way to think about democracy is it is majority rule, certainly. It's a free election, certainly, but it's also independent judiciary, a free press, regulatory agencies that are not captured by big corporations. And in my case, because I run a university, it means free universities, universities that are free to teach and learn whatever they want. A university is part of what makes for a free society. CEU was founded and endowed by George Soros, Hungarian. He's a patriot. He's a Holocaust survivor. God knows I don't think we'd be here without this kind of vision that he had to create a university that would help a society go from communism to democracy. And that's what we've tried to do for the last 25 years, and we want to keep doing it.
We're announcing today that we have been forced by the government of Hungary to move our U.S. accredited programs to Vienna and accept all incoming students there in September 2019.
Freedom is most precious when you've won it with your own hands. So I have hope.
The international organization Reporters Without Borders is being recognized for helping to sustain the freedom of the press across national boundaries, for monitoring government policies regarding the press and other media, and for providing material, financial, and psychological support to journalists and newspapers discriminated against and persecuted by the authorities.
Aucun des grands problèmes auxquels est confrontée l'humanité ne sera résolu sans accès à l'information. Les conflits armés, les inégalités, les atteintes aux droits, le changement climatique, la corruption, le journalisme est essentiel pour les résoudre. La liberté de l'information, c'est celle qui permet de vérifier l'existence de toutes les autres. I am delighted to invite to the stage Mrs. Gabriela David and Professor Joseph Klaftil, President of Tel Aviv University, to present the awards. I have the honor to invite Professor Michael Ignatieff to receive his prize.
I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Christophe Deloire to accept the prize on behalf of Reporters Without Borders. Professor Ignatieff, please join Mr. Deloire for a photo. Thank you very much, Mr. Deloire, Mrs. David, and Professor Klafter. I would like to ask Professor Ignatieff to remain on stage and deliver his address on behalf of the Defending Democracy laureates. Please.
My friends, good evening. Join everybody in saluting President Klafter for his extraordinary leadership. Thank the David family for their extraordinary generosity. If you'll allow a Canadian to single out his ambassador, I don't know where you are, Ambassador, but there you are. Good to see you. I also want to single out, if I can, the Canadian Friends of Tel Aviv University, or out in the crowd somewhere. They've added enormously to my enjoyment of this weekend, and my wife, Susanna. Fellow laureates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for this prize, which I accept on behalf of Christophe Deloire of Reporters Without Borders, as well as myself and everybody back home at Central European University in Budapest. Now, Christophe's organization defends journalists, and I represent a university that defends academic freedom. So it's great to be standing together tonight. Universities and a free press have to be understood, I think, as counter-majoritarian institutions. A university's job is to train young people to winnow the wheat of truth from the chaff of ideology, just as journalism is there to discard rumor in face of the facts. Universities and a free press serve our societies. We have to be accountable to those societies because they pay our bills, after all. But our job is also to stand up against majority prejudice, and doing so is never popular. But a democracy without counter-majoritarian institutions risks becoming a tyranny of the majority, just as a democracy that frustrates the popular will risks becoming a tyranny of the elite. So defending democracy means fighting to maintain the balance between majority rule and minority rights that, when they combine together, makes democracy so strong. And this is work not just for journalists and professors, but for every one of you, for every one of us every day, defending the right of those who disagree with us, even when we cannot stand what they have to say, standing up for our own beliefs when no one else is standing with us, supporting the unpopular causes of others precisely because they're unpopular, and making sure, above all, that we never forget that child in that story who, when none of the adults could see it, pointed out and exclaimed, "The emperor is naked." Democracy faces many challenges today, from China, from Russia, and single-party states like Hungary, and from the populists battling for power in Europe and the United States. What we call populism is a democratic revolt against the courts, the media, the universities, in the name of the people. And so the strange thing about our times is that the chief danger to democracy today comes from those who call themselves Democrats. At the same time, the digital revolution has disrupted the authority on which both of our professions, academic and journalism, repose. And they've disrupted it just as the Gutenberg Revolution challenged the church 6 centuries ago. If each of us in our phones tonight carries the equivalent of the Library of Alexandria in our pockets, what do we need experts for? What do we need professors and journalists for? So this disruption of our authority is inevitable, and it may even be necessary. Democracy, after all, demands that all authority justify itself in front of the people. There just should be one rule here. Don't shoot the messenger, especially when he or she happens to be telling you the truth. Now, accepting another's truth is not easy. It means listening. It means agreeing to disagree. It means acknowledging sometimes between gritted teeth that your adversary might just be right. Defending democracy means more than turning up to vote and respecting the rules of the electoral game. It means living two ideals in particular. The first, that everyone counts for one and no one counts for more than one. So to believe in democracy is to believe in equal voice for all. But to believe in democracy is also to uphold the idea that in the struggle for power, at the heart of a free politics, there are no enemies, only adversaries. Now, an enemy wants to destroy you. An adversary only wants to beat you. She may oppose you today, but she could be persuaded to be your ally tomorrow. An enemy believes that all means in a political fight are fair, and an adversary believes some means are just never fair. And democracy dies when enemies hate each other more than they love democracy. There should be no enemies in the democratic house, only adversaries, citizens like us who, we must presume, though it tests our patience and loyalty sometimes, love the country as we do. Let us hope in the turbulent democracy that is Israel, as in my country and others that you come from, that we live by that cardinal rule. There are no enemies in the House. Thank you again for this unforgettable honor.
Professor Ignatieff, I think this is yours. Thank you very much, Professor Ignatieff, for your important message this evening for us all. The selected field for the 2019 Future Time Dimension is combating climate change. In response to the long-term increases in atmospheric greenhouse gases, features in our global weather, oceans, and ecosystems are shifting in significant ways. The musical work we will now hear was specially commissioned by the Dan David Prize and will see its world premiere here tonight. Entitled Smog, it was written by the young, award-winning Israeli composer Udi Perelman, who chose Antonio Vivaldi's Four Seasons as the symbolic base of his work. The piece captures a world in which the seasons, perhaps the clearest expression of climatic balance and order, are distorted. As we hear Vivaldi's melodies, we are invited to contemplate the fate of the seasons in the strange world that awaits us. Thank you to the multi-piano ensemble and the tremolo ensemble from the Buchmann Mehta School of Music, and to the gifted composer Udi Perelman. That was beautiful. The Dan David Prize Board has accepted the recommendation of the International Review Committee, chaired by Dr. David Fahey of the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and selected Ms. Cristiana Figueres for the 2019 Dan David Prize for the Future Time Dimension in the field of combating climate change. We recognize Ms. Figueres this evening for her singular leadership in chairing the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, culminating in the Paris Agreement in 2015, and for her outstanding efforts for its ratification in 2016, resulting in an unprecedented broad international consensus in the world's efforts to combat climate change.
Impossible is not a fact, it's an attitude. It's only an attitude. And I decided that I was going to change my attitude, and I was going to help the world change its attitude on climate change. On December 12, 2015, in Paris, under the United Nations, 195 governments got together and unanimously decided to intentionally change the course of the global economy in order to protect the most vulnerable and improve the life of all of us. Now that is a remarkable achievement.
I fundamentally believe not only that people are more motivated by positive than by negative, but also because there is such opportunity in addressing climate change. And I think, several years ago we made the huge mistake of putting out a doom and gloom message, unless you do this, I don't know, some kind of apocalypse. Well, how is that going to get us any further? The fact is that there's such huge opportunities for job creation, for new technology, energy security, for food security, for water security. It's actually fundamentally much more of a good news agenda than it is a bad news agenda.
It's a sacred opportunity that all of us are having right now to be alive and to be adults in the moment in which history and mankind are actually just in such incredible transformation.
I am pleased to invite to the stage Professor Itamar Rabinovich, Chairman of the Dan David Foundation, and Dr. David Fahey, Committee Chairperson for the field of combating climate change, to present the awards. The honor to invite to the stage the recipient of the prize, Ms. Cristiana Figueres, who will then address the audience. Ms. Figueres, you're welcome. We would be very happy to hear your speech.
In absentia, I would like to thank His Excellency President Rivlin for his inspiring address to us tonight. I would like to thank Professor Klafter for the legacy that you are handing over tonight. I would like to thank Gabi, Ariel, and the entire Dan David Prize family for executing and continuing to execute the vision of Dan David. And to all of the other friends here tonight, Shalom. Every time that I come to Israel, I find myself celebrating the long-lasting relationship between Israel and my country of birth, Costa Rica, and in fact, even my family. In 1948, yes, the birth date of the State of Israel, but also in Costa Rica, the year that my father led a successful revolution in defense of democracy in Costa Rica. And the result of that successful revolution was the founding of what we call the Second Republic of Costa Rica. One of the very first formal decisions of the Second Republic of Costa Rica was to recognize the State of Israel in June of 1948. So my father recognized the State of Israel on behalf of his country, and then my mother, several decades later, was the Costa Rican ambassador to Israel, a wonderful tradition followed by Ambassador Penrod here tonight. So you can imagine, I feel quite at home. The only thing I have to do is learn Hebrew. But tonight, my friends, we're here to celebrate the long-lasting vision of Dan David. And no one knows how many different beautiful facets he had. No one knows that better than Gabi, his wife. We have heard from him tonight in his own words. We have heard about him from Ariel, his son. One facet that I would like to bring forward for you tonight is how remarkable it is that a man who became one of Israel's most successful businessmen, based on the very simple technology of clicking a moment in time. That is what made him one of the most successful business people of Israel. Now, what I find remarkable is that although that is the technology that catapulted him in his business life, he very obviously understood that life is much more than any moment in time. The prize that he designed and that he created is a testament to the fact that Dan David understood that life is not only about the present moment, that life is about deriving lessons from the past and taking wise decisions in the present and setting ambitious goals for the future. That is the arc of transformation that Dan David executed in his personal life. It is the arc of transformation that many of you will recognize in your personal lives, in your corporate functions, or in fact, in public affairs. But just to expand the universe, our mental universe of how that arc of transformation occurs, let me, in about 5 seconds, give you the history of mankind. After the last ice age, this planet that has been around for 4.5 billion years, we went into what is known today as the Holocene period. And it was a geological era that gave us the sweet spot, unparalleled in the entire history of the planet, the sweet spot that lasted only 10,000 years, during which mankind prospered and multiplied. And everything that we saw in the first film occurred within a very short space of 10,000 years as compared to 4.5 billion years of the planet. Well, my friends, I have news for you. We're no longer in the Holocene. All of us today are now living in a new geological era, the Anthropocene, that started only about 50 years ago. And what is quite daunting about inaugurating a new geological era for the human race is that as we start into that geological era, we have many decisions to take. We have to decide whether the Anthropocene is going to be written by history as the geological era in which humans destroyed all natural systems and everything that supported life, or whether the Anthropocene is actually going to be the era in which humankind rose to its highest sense of purpose. Up until now, everything that has been written about the Anthropocene is only about our destruction. That does not have to be the history of this geological era. We have the opportunity, we have the responsibility of deciding now and over the next 10 years, but no more than that, what that geological era is going to be. What we do on energy, what we do on transport, what we do with the oceans, what we do with technology, what we do with forests, what we do with finance, all of those decisions that we are collectively taking will decide, and this is no exaggeration, the quality of life for human beings, not for a decade or two, but for several hundred years, if not thousands of years. Ours is a collective responsibility that no human beings have ever borne on their shoulders before. We stand in the most unique, historic moment in the history of mankind, in fact, in the history of this planet, 4.5 billion years. So, dear friends, we have a very simple lesson that we learn from Dan David. We have to learn from the past. We have to create we have to act wisely in the present in order to be able to create a safer future of peace and prosperity for everyone. And the only way to do that, and this may surprise you, is to be an optimist. And today, my invitation is for all of you to embrace optimism. Because let me define optimism for you. Optimism is not a celebration. Optimism is not when you achieve something and then you congratulate yourself. No, that is called a celebration. That is not optimism. For me, optimism is not the result of an achievement, but is actually the input with which we approach any challenge. And my friends, we have many global challenges in this century. And every single one of them are challenges that we can and we must be able to address successfully. Now, it's not enough to be an optimist. You also have to be a stubborn optimist, because there are going to be many challenges. There are going to be many vicissitudes that we didn't even imagine.
and many predictable barriers that we can imagine. And in front of each of those, the answer can never be, in that case, I'm just going to sit home and wait for things to happen. That just doesn't cut it anymore. So we have to be stubborn, because we have to be determined and relentless, and know that the quality of life of our children and 7, 10, 20 generations after us depend on what we decide to do today and over the next 10 years. So, my dear friends, tonight, in this beautiful evening, and in the spirit of Dan David, who would have done exactly the same if he were here, I invite you all to join a growing family of stubborn optimists, knowing that we will face all challenges ahead of us. Toda rabah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Figueres, for words of inspiration and optimism. Ladies and gentlemen, we have almost concluded the 2019 Dan David Prize Awards ceremony. We invite you to join us for additional events with our laureates this week: the award ceremony for young researchers and winners of the Name Your Hero Youth Essay Competition tomorrow, plus our symposia in the fields of defending democracy and macro history. We now ask that you rise for Hatikva, the national anthem, which will be performed by the singer Tom Cohen.
Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulfatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot alpayim liot am chofshi be'artzeinu eretz Tzion v'Yerushalayim liot am chofshi be'artzeinu eretz Tzion v'Yerushalayim.
Thank you very much for being with us this evening. Please join us for refreshments in the entrance lobby. Good evening and Erev Tov to you all. Toda.